Elon Musk has released what he is calling the Twitter files, and it's a big deep dive into what happened at Twitter for 2020 to this year, the last couple of years, and what was going on behind the scenes. And this is the first dump of, I guess, many that's starting to come. But is it all it's cracked up to be? Because it really isn't stuff being dropped that wasn't already assumed or kind of known a little bit. There's no real big bombshells coming out of this story. And this was all dropped in a Twitter thread from a guy named Matt Taibbi. Might have absolutely butchered that, but he says the Twitter files tell an incredible story from inside one of the world's largest and most influential social media platforms. It is a Frankensteinian tale of a human-built mechanism grown out the control of its designer. So this thread is obviously very long, lots of many parts, but we're going to just kind of break down a couple of ones that are kind of interesting that I saw that he dropped, and maybe look into kind of what was going on behind the scenes in Twitter. And a pretty big one here was these requests in 2020 from connected actors to delete tweets were routine. One executive would write to another, more to review from the Biden team. The reply would come back handled, which is kind of weird if you look at just talking to a social media site. If you take into context that this is someone running for political office, they come in and just email, I'm guessing email Twitter execs or Twitter employees, whoever their handle is, and just paste the link to a bunch of tweets and saying you need to review these. And then I guess the people on Twitter just taking the tweets down, which does seem pretty weird if you look at it for someone running for office. If you're going to be trying to be in the government, you probably shouldn't be trying to control what people are saying. That should be a gimme, because people love to throw out that the First Amendment doesn't protect you against anything for private companies. But if Twitter is acting on behalf of a political candidate, even if they're not even in office yet, if they're running, that's already a really weird thing. And we also have this coming out saying the system wasn't balanced. It was based on contacts, because Twitter was and is overwhelmingly staffed by people of one political orientation. There were more channels, more ways to complain, open to the left and then the right. And then this lets you see the money donated, so by like the company. And you can see obviously the totals they're donating, and the absolute vast majority, almost all of it, going to one side of the aisle. And obviously this got $451 in 2022. So I mean, he probably shouldn't even donate anything at that point, but kind of funny, just it's like $400. But it does seem to say, obviously, the people who are getting the majority of donations from any platform, they are probably most likely the ones in contact with that said platform. And this goes for both parties, because I'm sure both parties do this because all politicians are in one game, and that's trying to get you to think a certain way about them or their opposition, so they can try and sway you to whatever side they want you to be on. But we also have two more scandals. The White House spokesperson at the time being locked out of their account for tweeting about a story, prompting a furious letter from the Trump campaign, basically saying to at least pretend to care for the next 20 days, which led down even more to a decision that was made at the highest levels of the company, but without the knowledge of the CEO, Jack Dorsey, with former head of legal policy and trust playing a key role. So obviously a little weird there that any of this could happen without the CEO knowing, and they were trying to do all this in the background and not let the CEO know. That is already weird on its own when you're working behind the back of not even just your boss, but the founder of the company. It's obviously going to have a very weird connotation to it of you're probably doing something that maybe he doesn't agree with. And this is absolutely wild that all of this stuff could have gone on just trying to be behind Jack Dorsey's back and not involve him in any of the decisions, which is weird, because all of the things that they do show here too don't include Dorsey making statements or putting stuff out. Maybe we'll get more on that in the future, but it's extremely weird that the CEO wasn't involved in decisions. And you also have this very big story about the Hunter Biden laptop with the comms official right here, Trenton Kennedy, saying, "I'm struggling to understand the policy basis for marking this as unsafe. And I think the best explainability argument for this externally would be that we're waiting to understand if the story is the result of hacked materials. We face hard questions on this if we don't have some sort of some kind of solid reasoning for marking the link unsafe. But even just by doing this, we kind of get a look that maybe they know that they might be doing something that's a little weird and maybe they shouldn't be doing, because they're already running what ifs. If this happens, what if that happens? What if people don't believe it? How are we going to get them to think that it's okay for us to do this? And if you're having those conversations, you might be doing something that's not truly great. And then even more inside like conversations that went down from Hyol saying the policy basis is hacked materials, though as discussed, this is an emerging situation where the facts remain unclear. Given the severe risks here and lessons of 2016, we're erring on the side of including a warning and preventing this content from being amplified. So saying you're erring on the severe risks of 2016, that doesn't really matter. So that basically means you're really trying to get involved in an election cycle because you don't want people to make up their own minds or see this news going on and look into it, and you're going to purposely pull it back, make it very hard to share, very hard to amplify, hard to get into, hard to see, which means that you are running with a kind of narrative. And you can see the whole game plan here from what they're talking about is basically labeling something as hacked material or unsafe link and saying that that's why they don't want to promote it, because it's malicious like content or malicious malware you could get for clicking the link, when in reality we just from the first response up here, it just seems like they're trying to run some sort of narrative, which obviously they come out publicly and say that they don't do, but then privately say that they are doing. And then even through all of this, you have someone kind of trying to reroute the conversation towards the First Amendment. And the first line here makes a lot of sense, talking about, but this seems a violation of the First Amendment principles. If there is a hack of classified information or other information that could expose a serious war crime and the NYT was to publish it, I think the New York Times should have that right. A journalist should not be held accountable for the illegal actions of the source unless they actively aided in the hack, which that makes way more sense. If something is hacked material and gets leaked and people start talking about it and journalists write stuff on it, then the news is out. It doesn't matter that there was a hack to get the information. The information's out. And if it's something bad, people should be talking about it. And if it's something that might affect results that you like or some sort of narrative that you want to run with, I mean, too bad. You can't try and censor that and make it so that people don't talk about it just by saying, this was originally hacked, don't talk about it. Everyone should be able to talk about everything that is news-wise or anything that they want to talk about, even if they weren't the ones who hacked the source. You know, if they were the ones who hacked it, maybe they could be in the wrong a little bit. But if somebody else hacked something and the information got leaked and everyone started talking about it, then the information's out and you got to deal with people talking about it. But trying to say you're not even allowed to talk about it or look at it, that's a little weird. It's a very weird area to go into. And they ends this whole thread off talking about it's been a whirlwind 96 hours for me too. There is much more to come, including answers to questions about issues like shadow banning, boosting, follower counts, the fate of various individual accounts, and more. These issues are not limited to the political right. So that I think would be much more interesting, because I don't think anyone really thought that Twitter wasn't a left-leaning platform. I think people very much expected that, but the news coming out and the inside conversations of people kind of scheming on how to push things down and not let people really see things should be brought to light, and it should be something that people talk about, because it's a little bit ridiculous to censor things strictly on either a narrative basis that you personally want to push or a narrative basis that some outside influence wants you to push. And Elon Musk leaves us off with tune in for episode 2 of the Twitter Files tomorrow. So seems like maybe he's having fun with this. I'm imagining this is probably boosting the users that are using Twitter. Everyone's coming back in this. A lot of people were replying to like this tweet saying that they're not interested in episode 2 because episode 1 was trash, but they're all going to be there. We're all going to be there tomorrow, and we're all going to be looking at the tweets and seeing what's going on. You're not going to be able to outrun it. But I think that maybe things that come out later would be a little bit more interesting and more bombshells, because I don't think that anything that came out was super shocking. It is crazy to see people scheming behind the scenes and not including the CEO and founder of the company. That's even more wild, but we'll see what the rest of the news has in store. But that's going to do it for this video. As always, remember to smash the like button and subscribe. We're to 1,000 subscribers. See you in my next